Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 3. We're still discussing sexual health and how it is very important as women to encompass all things. Just to recap, we have already talked about making ourselves a priority and self-love and feeling self-worthy and all those kinds of things. And we had encouraged you to check out what your 5 love languages, well, what your one was within the 5.
Yeah.
Um, Mine is still physical touch and quality time, which I was surprised about, but happy. How about you, Dr. B? What was yours?
Mine was actually the opposite. So I was quality time first and then physical touch, which interestingly, because gosh, I don't think it's been 10 or 15 years since I took the test, and it used to be acts of service. And so it just shows like that evolution of, and in that moment when I saw the test score results, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense of why just being on the couch with the dog, being on the couch with myself and my coffee and my journal, being on the couch with my husband and my son, like literally fills my cup. Like I probably spend 4 hours a day sitting on the couch, but it's yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit that, and it is probably true. Like I can literally time it, but I spend a lot of time on the couch because I at least spend 2 hours every morning there.
Yeah.
But it's because there's like different seasons in that 2 hours. Like
Yeah,
the
and your
first,
priority,
yeah,
right?
and that first hour and a half is just me and my book and my journal and my coffee. And then once my son wakes, then he joins me on the couch and he's doing his own like pre-morning situation, but we're in each other's space. And that just like evolves, right? And then we are very adamant in our family about date nights, and date nights aren't out. They're not spending money per se. It's that intentional time.
Yeah,
And
love it.
so Cordell and I, my son, we have 2 nights a week that are like designated for mom son date night, and then my husband and I have 3 nights a week. And so the other person realizes and knows like, hey, this is their time, and then we have family time and such. But it really, because we stay home and we don't really have any projects to do around the house, a lot of that truly just is being on the couch with one another. No screens, no anything other than just
Yep.
filling
Each
our
other.
cups with that intimacy of
Yeah.
conversation, physical touch, quality time. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, so not surprised. But 10 years ago, that definitely was not my number one.
Because your priorities have
Yeah.
changed. They're
Yeah.
more into what you need, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so curious, your husband and Cordell, they have their date night as well?
They have like their, we used to call it daddy date day, because I used to work in the clinic on Saturdays, and so Saturdays
Yeah,
is just kind of Cordell and I do karate together in the morning for an
yeah,
hour, and then when we come home it's pretty much like he just moves into like time with dad, and they'll play video games or build Lego or
yeah.
do
Nice.
dioramas and things like that. So they spend that quality time together, just the two of them, and i
Nice.
i just remove myself, which I'm always grateful for. But I will
Yeah,
say one thing is I love hearing them interact. It like
yeah,
fills my heart up with so much happiness to
yeah.
like hear the giggles and the conversations, and just seeing that they have that connection is beautiful. So anyway,
Love it.
totally off topic, but like
No, but
I
it's so
love
important
it.
though.
Yeah.
No, but it's so important, the connection that we create with our kids, right? And our partner, which also fills our cup too, right? So
Yeah.
let's not
Yeah.
like put that aside how important it is that we do have the connection and we create that space for our kids, because
Mm.
then when our kids get older, they're going to be able to create their own environment where they can decompress and all that good stuff that
Yes.
we've already talked about,
Yes.
right? Which I think is really important. And I think we can talk about this another time, but I think that's part of why a lot of kids today suffer from anxiety and all
Mm.
that stuff,
Mhm.
because they don't have any tools to
Mm.
teach them to self empower, to decompress, to recalibrate, right? And it's so important. Like both you and I are big advocates for our kids to
Mm.
teach them these tools because they're so important for
Mm.
when they're an adult. And we both have said 100 times we wish that we had these tools when we were younger,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that though, I will say too is, Cordell. So Chris and I do 3 nights a week. And I do 2 nights a week. Cordell and I's time in that like date night tends to be a little bit longer, and it's uninterrupted because Chris completely respects that and he's got his own thing going on. There are a few times where Chris and I are having our date night and Cordell will interrupt, and he needs to be reminded. He's 8, but needs to be reminded like this is our intimate time for us to reconnect and be intentional with each other, just like you and I love to do on this night or that night, right? And so
Hmm.
we expect you to have that respect for our time to reconnect and ground
Yep.
with one another, and we appreciate that you can see that and that you're giving that. And so then his comeback was like, well, you have 3 nights with daddy and only 2 nights with me, and that's not fair. And
Yeah.
so, but it was wonderful because it led to this thing of like, I need me time too, but I
Hmm.
love that connection with dad, and I love that connection with you, and I love that connection when all of us are together. It
Yep.
isn't about date nights, it's about the quality of time. And you and I are blessed to be able to do karate together 2 nights a week. You and I are blessed that I don't start in the clinic till later, and I can spend the mornings with you, make you breakfast, take you to school,
Hmm.
and all of these other things that I am so blessed to be able to do. And I see that as quality time with you. It doesn't have to just be
Yeah.
within a date night, or a said date night. So that was a really cool kind
That's
of
right.
coming back
Yeah.
to that self-empowerment of him seeing that like, oh, it doesn't just have to be this date night, but we are actually spending this quality time with one another in
Like
other ways,
specific. Yeah,
as long
exactly.
as we're
Yeah.
present in that, right?
100%.
As long as we're present in it.
Yeah.
So it's been
Hmm.
really fun to kind of teach that and let him really feel empowered in those, the drive to karate. Do we
Yeah.
ask each other 3 questions? Do we sing? Do we talk? Like, what are we doing in this drive where we're
Yeah.
connecting? And that 10 minutes is like a reboot for us, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
To reconnect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. And I think those tools that you're teaching him just by visualizing and being in the environment where, okay, this is mom and dad's space, this is their time. In turn, he will create when he's a teenager, when he has his own relationships, so forth and so forth. And it will be stronger, I
Hmm.
think. It'll
Hmm.
be more authentic, right?
Yeah, and it won't feel like he's, I don't know how popular some of those ideas are in this world right now. So I think for him to
Mm.
just feel like it's commonplace to say,
Yep.
if he's dating someone or married, to be like, I need my own time, because we are very adamant about our own individual time, as well
Mm.
as I would really like to implement intentional time with you. And let's make it a date in that, just like I am not going to miss my hair appointment ever unless I'm like on my deathbed, right? So it's this
Right.
idea of like, if it's in the calendar, we respect that and we honor
Yep.
that and we cherish that time.
Hmm.
And if something does come up that potentially is in the way of that, it's reorganizing. It's saying, hey, Saturday night normally would be our date night in. However, Friday we're doing this thing. Can we just switch days? And then
Yep.
that way, Saturday I can do my own thing. Yes, absolutely. But it's just having that respect to that intentional time, that we're not just going to not do it. We're going to replace it or switch it
Exactly.
around somewhere so that we can still honor it.
Yep.
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
making yourself a priority. You're
Yeah.
respecting your wants and needs, right? You're creating space for what you need and you're loving yourself and you're self empowering. See?
Yes, all the things
Like
like we do.
magic.
What? You just brought all 3 episodes right into one. You guys don't worry about episode 1 and 2. If you haven't watched them, don't worry about it. Don't. I'm just kidding. Please go back and watch them. They're great.
That's right.
Um, but
That's right.
yeah, yeah. So I love that. And that's, I think too. If we kind of talk about like taking action, yeah,
Hmm.
take the quiz if you haven't taken it in a while or whatever.
Yep.
Or there are other things out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Personality tests and all, like there's
We
all
were
the
just,
things. Yeah, we're
yeah,
not promoting any one specific one, but like just
not at all.
something that just allows you
No
to be like,
promotion here.
no, no. Hashtag no promotions.
That's right.
We're promoting just the empowerment, women
Yeah.
empowerment, like sexual health.
And
So we're
tools.
promoting all cool things, right?
Yeah.
But that idea of being able to just stand in your power, right? Being able to ask for what you need, whether that's in the
Mhm.
bedroom or whether that's alone time or whether that's,
Yep.
hey, I'm tapped out today and I just need to go for a drive. Can you man the fort? Because I need like 25 minutes, right? But being able to like truly believe that you're worth that and that your voice is strong enough to ask for that.
100%.
Hmm.
100%. 100%. Where should we go now?
Well, I personally, one of the things I love, because I don't know that I bring this into this like space, is this idea of that like sexuality, sensuality. Like I'm a very sexual being and I love sex and all things intimacy. Um, but I
Yep.
think you like we're different in that from what I do know. We're very different in how we like see it, approach it, feel it. So I would love for you to just kind of like bless us with your wisdom around the more of that like sensuality, sexuality component, and just being like one with yourself and showing up for yourself in that way.
Yeah, so I'm really big with sensuality because that's all about me, all about you, all about how I feel in my skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether I'm in a hot yoga class, like I often tell my friends, right? I've told you before that I find it very sensual to go to my yoga class because I'm in a hot room. I'm allowing myself the time, right? It's so decadent. It's like there's dolce vita. That's an Italian saying, like you're living your life, you're loving your life, you're creating that
Mm-hmm.
space, you're allowing it to happen. And um within the sensuality part, right? It's mind, body, and spirit. It's all encompassing of who you are, right? Whether you like, I like lingerie. I wear lingerie every day. I wear it for myself. I love the way it feels on my skin. I love the way that my breasts are, how they feel in there. I love how my panties hug my bottom. So for me, I love all of that. I love to
Mm-hmm.
feel sexy and sensual every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just who I am. And I do things for myself every day to encourage that, to encourage me feeling sexy. I mean, obviously every day we don't feel sexy or pretty or whatever it is, because whatever is happening, right? Our
Yeah.
ego takes over and we have to take that
I don't
step
have an
back.
ego. What are you talking about?
But taking that time again, right?
Yeah,
Of
for sure.
just recalibrating ourselves. Okay, like looking at myself in the mirror. At first I'm all apprehensive and then I'm like, no, I am
Mm-hmm.
beautiful because of this is me right now and I'm going to appreciate
Poof.
everything about
Yeah.
that. Right?
Preach.
And
Yes.
that's where that self-empowerment comes from, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, being sensual for yourself as also allows you to be vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and knowing what your wants and needs are, right? And, we don't need to talk about this today, but we can talk about another episode if there's interest, but self-pleasing, right? I mean, let's
Mm-hmm.
be honest,
Mm-hmm.
like, again, no disrespect to anyone with any other belief systems. I'm just sharing my own content here. And but this leads into sexuality, right? So
Yeah.
sensuality and sexuality, they're two, different things, right? But it's knowing who you are, being authentic to who you are, self-empowered, and allowing yourself to feel and be curious in
Yeah.
however you want to be, right? Does
Yeah.
that
I
answer?
love that. Yeah, because that is, I'm gonna be honest, that like none of that is me. Um, in the sense of well, and yeah, I've never, how would I say, man, you got like I can't talk. I love it. I love it. That's not how I function. That is not for me. It's how would I
Can I
say
just
this?
share one thing
Yeah,
though?
do it,
Sorry
please,
that,
please,
that
please.
I'm
Yeah.
interrupting
Oh
you,
yeah.
but your quality time in the morning is your sensuality.
Yeah.
That is being sensual
Yeah.
because you are providing yourself what you need. You need that
Hmm.
time. So
Hmm.
that's being sensual.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that just for everybody listening too. And that's why I think
Mm,
I'm kind of like speechless in the sense of like, I think it's freaking rad that that is like you and how you, but recognizing too that we're not all the same. Right. So we're not saying
exactly.
like, go put on lingerie and now all of a sudden you'll
No.
feel this way. No, 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 no. If you're drawn to that and that works for you, sweet. Right. But this idea of whatever, kind of circling back to that cup, right? Like whatever fills your cup, whatever
Yeah.
allows you to just be centered and be honored and be aware of what your needs are, being able to use your voice, standing in your power, asking for what you need, whether that's to yourself creating a new boundary, or if that's to like a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a spouse or a partner or whatever that is, or your kid. Like, gosh, I can't tell you how
Yeah.
many times, Cordell has like overstepped the boundary that I've created, and I just have to, I don't get mad. I don't usually, at least. And it's this, sometimes I'm like, again, for seriously, right? But it's this
Yeah.
idea of, this is my boundary, and here's why I have this boundary, and I'm asking you to please respect this.
Hmm.
And so therefore you have the option of doing X, Y, and Z, but
Yep.
right now in this moment I need this. And I feel very blessed to have that voice now at this point in my life, because I feel like you said earlier, it's something that we're teaching our children or other people around us, not only to
Boys
respect
and the
our
girls, right?
boundaries, correct,
Yeah,
but also to empower them to create their own boundaries,
exactly.
right? And their own
100%.
friendships, their own idea of what that, like, yes, you get to choose, right?
Hmm.
And this is, I'm
Yep,
choosing, and I'm
100%.
going to show you by example, right? And so I'm really grateful that my life has evolved to where it's at today, where I feel very strong and confident about boundaries. And I think this is like part of your genius too, in your alignment work that you do, is this idea of renegotiating boundaries and realigning them,
Yep,
because we are continue, correct me if I'm like throwing it off here, but we are continually evolving, right? We know
yep,
this. And so then therefore our boundaries may change. What I needed
always.
6 months ago might not be what
Yeah,
I need today. But if
that's
I
right.
don't know that, and I don't feel strong to use my voice or to stand in my power with that, I can't expect someone else to then honor that. Am I right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, you can pull that into your work, into your business, with your girlfriends, with your relationship, with
Yeah.
your spouse or your partner, whatever, your kids, everything. Even with like a sports club, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to renegotiate terms
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
your work has changed, like the balance is off, right? And we're
Yeah.
always we're always like, when there's one little shift in our life, like our kid is sick or spouse is sick or something happens, like financial or whatever it is, right? We always have a hiccup in our life.
Yeah.
Our balance gets taken away, right? So
Yeah.
it's renegotiating our new
Yeah.
set of needs, right? To have it run smoothly, and not necessarily, contract and all that kind of stuff, but just renegotiating things, because we
Mm-hmm.
have to, because again, like you said, we are evolving, because we're growing, hopefully, right, into who we are becoming. So it makes sense to have to renegotiate things in our lives,
Yeah.
whether
And that's
it's
in and out
at
of the
work
bedroom,
and
right? Like, I work
yeah.
with a population of women who are moving into that menopausal stage,
Hmm.
or they're more recently postpartum and they have changes. Like, I had a patient recently who had just had a hysterectomy, and
Hmm.
things felt different. They were different down there. So she needed to renegotiate and get out of the rut, if you will, right? Of like
Yeah,
just that, like that continual, and things were different. And so they needed to approach it differently for a period of
right.
time, but it was never going to be back the way it was before.
Yeah.
So whether it's a surgery or an evolution of just tissue health or postpartum, like we go through different phases and seasons
Yeah.
where from a sexual standpoint, we're going to need to renegotiate what we're willing to accept and what feels good in the bedroom, in that
Hmm.
intimacy, intercourse, of course, included in that. And that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
And just tagging on to that, is that our perception of intimacy in this case, has shifted, right? So it makes sense that our priority would have to
Mm-hmm.
change as well. We have to. There's
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
if, ands, or but. You can't have the same belief system that you had in this case before the hysterectomy, and then your partner expects the same kind of situation
Right,
or
right,
intimacy, right,
right,
to occur. It's
right,
nonsensical because
right.
you've changed physically, mentally, and
And
emotionally
emotionally,
just
yeah,
from that
yeah,
surgery,
yeah.
right?
And what
So
was
you
fascinating,
have
oh, go ahead.
to.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's just that what I was trying to get at is that expectations
Mm-hmm,
are not being met, right?
mm-hmm.
So then there comes in that guilt factor and all that other
Yes.
stuff
Mm-hmm,
that doesn't belong. So
mm-hmm.
renegotiating just makes more sense, right? Because
Yeah,
you're different. The
totally,
relationship's
totally.
different.
Yep.
Perspective is different. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that idea of if it is different, and let's say it's not as pleasurable or not as
Hmm.
satisfying for either of us, now it's my fault because my body has changed,
Right. Exactly.
or because I delivered the baby, or because, right, like whatever that is. And so it's this idea of, like you're saying, a lot of shame and guilt coming back into, and then that then there affects tissue mobility, that affects that ability for that high vibration, for that deeper connection. So
Yeah.
just that one belief system or that one thought process that traps in at a cellular level is going to change the entire dynamic of then
Completely.
therefore all of your encounters until you've
Yeah.
resolved that emotion, mental, feeling
Hmm.
component of whatever shifting and changing for you. And that goes
Yeah.
both ways. I mean,
Exactly.
you see a guy that's maybe had a vasectomy or has just gone through prostate cancer or has had some kind of like trauma or injury or surgery, and it's changed the way they perform. Or maybe it
Hmm.
takes them longer to achieve their erection or whatever that is. And so it's not
Yep.
just in our female population, but it's seen across the board. In that, and
Yep.
especially because we want to perform sexually because we're sexual beings. We're like, I mean, it's such a great part of our life, right? And so yeah, but it isn't just that physical aspect. There's so much more, like you're saying, bringing that whole mind, body,
Yep.
soul, spirit back into just how we show up and how we accept ourselves, and the awareness that we have, the ability to communicate and have those conversations with that person
Yeah.
we are being intimate with, right?
Yeah. And again, it goes back because every time that something shifts in our lives, takes us out of balance and out of alignment, right? We have to come to terms with the new
Mm-hmm,
us, whatever it is,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Our new perspective, our new belief system. So that's going
mm-hmm.
to shift and change what's happening in our lives. So we have to renegotiate and we have
Yeah.
to be vulnerable again to our new thing, like how we've changed. Like, again, like, I'm just gonna mention it again that I'm like going through menopause. I think I'm past it now, right? But I'm 53. My body's changed.
Yeah.
I'm not as, you know, muscular as I was. I don't have the strength that I did. Like, thankfully, I do
Mm-hmm,
yoga and all that kind of
mm-hmm.
stuff, but I have that hormonal belly that we just talked about last season. And, and it is what it is. So I have to accept and allow myself to be vulnerable again
Mm-hmm.
and
And not
love
identify with it.
myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. And
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
accept all that is,
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, it sounds simple when we're talking about it, but it's an everyday struggle, right? So we should actually maybe invite everyone that is listening, go look in the mirror and say, I love you,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
And
and feel
see,
it, right? And feel it.
right? It's
Um,
hard.
it is hard. And I think so my like kind of on your, like the menopausal state and your body changing and the hormones
Mm,
changing. My experience, especially being a victim of rape or survivor of rape, depending on how you want to say that, is that I went through years, pretty much, close to a decade of feeling very unsafe in that situation.
mm,
And so then therefore like body tension, so it was painful, it was uncomfortable, which again drove me into being a pelvic and sexual health practitioner. And I'm grateful for that. But my point being is that it went from this like kind of fearful, scared, uncertain, and not being able to be vulnerable, at least it didn't feel that way, to then really opening that up and reminding myself that I'm choosing this and that I am safe, and that
yep.
my partner can communicate with me, and that allowing my body, coming into my body and allowing that breath to release any emotions, or to remind myself that I'm safe, and using that to my advantage to just really
Hmm.
allow that sympathetic versus parasympathetic. I want that rest and digest. I want that ability for everything to
Yep.
relax and receive and be mobile versus the tension
Yep.
side of things. So for me, it was this kind of untraining and retraining around being in that space and that vulnerability. I'm choosing to be here, but it's been unsafe before. What is like, how does that look now? And just being able to repattern that, rewire it, change the belief systems around that ability to connect with somebody else in that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I don't want to pry or anything, but just to, just have a, just chat about it, and just
Hmm.
is that with your partner, with your husband, like you really needed to be vulnerable, right?
Hmm.
Like you really
Yeah.
had to be in that space,
Hmm.
even though like he's an amazing guy and everything, but
Right.
still, like you
Yeah.
really
Trust.
had
Right.
to
Hmm.
build up that trust. You had to have that self-worth, a component,
Yep.
right? And
Love and
be
be
vulnerable
loved.
and
Hmm.
know what your boundaries were
Yeah.
before you could even like have your amazing sex life that you do
Totally.
now, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about in
Totally.
another.
We're going to talk about that. No, just kidding.
What?
Yep, but you're so right. And it's this idea, like, not only with him and being able to have that, but also with myself, knowing that I have
Yeah.
a voice, I get to choose. And at any point, if
Hmm.
I'm not okay with what's happening, I get to say no, or I get to make a different choice, and that it's okay for me to have a boundary, and then therefore feel safer within my
Hmm.
own being, but also safe within
Exactly.
the environment, right? Yeah. So
Yep.
lots of
Exactly.
EMDR. I can advocate for EMDR to the like 100 millionth degree. The work that you and I both
And
do, all of that.
yeah,
Yes.
just for people that don't know what that stands for.
It's eye movement. Yeah. Anyway, good question. We'd have to Google it so I don't mess it up. But it has to do with, and counselors are often trained in there. They choose to be trained in it, and it is
Yep.
a way for, whether they're using eye movement or they use these little, like my gal uses these like little vibrating handheld machines, and then she controls the vibration. It's to be able to tap into the brain, to
Yep.
allow yourself to rewire, to release things
Hmm.
that maybe have been suppressed, or um fearful things that you don't want to talk about, to be able to release them from your body, and then repattern what they look like.
Yeah.
So I would
Yep.
totally butcher the EMDR part of it, but you definitely want to train someone who's trained in it to be the
For
person
sure.
that's
Yeah.
facilitating it for you. But
And
I'm
it's
a
going
big
to create
advocate.
that space where you feel safe, right? I
Hmm.
mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And being able to, yeah, just and I think too, like, understand that no two people are the same. So even when you move out of
Yep.
a relationship into a new one, that level, you're almost starting from ground zero, in the sense of, like, hopefully you have your own boundaries, you have your own self-acceptance and love, and those things, but being able to then create, that renegotiation might be within that new
Yep.
relationship,
Yep.
because no two people are the same. And
Nope.
so
And first and
um
foremost, yourself first, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and sometimes when we've been in a relationship, I mean, we could probably talk on this for a sec, is like we kind of lose who we are, or maybe
Yeah.
we don't necessarily stand in our power as strongly, because there's been some like alter, I don't know the word I'm thinking of, but like just this like shift, right? This
Altered
change, maybe.
state. Altered
Yeah, maybe
state.
we've tried to
Yeah.
like compromise or whatever, and we have to come back in here before we can truly move into that next relationship as our best self. So I just wanted to put that one
100%.
plug in too. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to give yourself that time to re-establish who you are
I
as
love that.
yourself, right?
Reestablish
You
who you
have
are
to.
as yourself. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you don't know how to do that, there's literally people in this world that is their modality, right? That's like you and
Yeah.
I helping somebody who needs to be able to reestablish that. And so
Hmm.
there's help too if you feel lost in that. But
Oh
it should
God,
be
I
a
mean,
priority,
which
right?
is great in this
Hmm.
timeline, right? There's so much help and resources available for whatever
Absolutely.
you need, right? You just
Hmm.
need to find someone who jives with who you are, right? Who's in alignment with what your needs are, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's another, like, I'm going to use the word contract, but another thing is, like, somebody might start with a practitioner of some sort or a counselor, and they feel like they feel guilty if they leave and say, like, this person doesn't align with me. It's the same
Hmm.
with a chiropractor, doctor, the
Yeah.
guy, the car dealership you take your car to. Like, if it doesn't feel good, it's okay to look elsewhere and to
Yeah.
adjust and make sure that it does align with you, so that you're serving your highest self and in that alignment.
Yeah, and if you are seeing a therapist, the therapist should be also on the same page, right? I'm talking we, are not providing what the healthy environment that
Hmm.
you need, then we need to provide you with other information that's
Yeah,
going to help you, right?
yeah,
Not just
yeah.
stick it out. It's not about that,
Yeah, there's no
right?
one-stop shop either, you know what I'm
No.
saying? So, yeah, it's really a matter of, we way off on this tangent, but truly, since we're here, it really is a matter of being able to say, like, and but again, that's coming back to that self-power, right? That self,
Yeah.
like, using your voice and saying, you know what, like, this just doesn't work for me, and I'm going to move on. Do you have any resources or whatever, right? But being
Yeah.
able to just honor that you're worth that, and it's okay to use your voice to ask for something different.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about taking action, right? Is like you have to be assertive, right? And you have to
Mhm.
take care of your own needs. Like that's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Mhm.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we want to share with everyone, right? Is that self-empowerment. Explore what your needs are, because whatever stage of life you're in, because it's all going to change, of course, right? Dr. B's at a different stage, I'm at a different
Yeah.
stage, but we're
Yeah.
able to communicate about it, which is great,
Mhm.
and help each other. So that's kind of what we're hoping to share with you as well, is that it doesn't matter what stage you are, right? That at the end of the day, it's all about like you being able to self-express, being curious,
Mhm. Mhm.
self-empowered, and
Mhm.
being in alignment with who you are, right?
Yes. Ah, I
Plain and
love
simple.
that. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for tying that all back in for us, because yeah, like, you to closing words by Kelly D right
That's
there,
right.
right? So,
So homework,
yeah,
everybody, is to
yeah.
look in the mirror and say, I love you.
You're all about the homework. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Right? Uh,
Yeah.
until you feel it. Because I think the importance is that essence of feeling it
Yeah.
and believing that's true.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Just
that's,
take one action a day, right? One thing a day to
yeah.
make yourself feel empowered
Mhm,
or
mhm,
attractive or sensual or
mhm.
curious.
So, one action a day, you guys. Look in the mirror, high five yourself if you need to, tell yourself that you
Yeah.
love you, and just keep being the amazing human that you are. And we are so grateful you are here.
Yeah.
We love you, and we are excited to do the Q&A with you. That will
Yeah.
be in the description of the meetup time, and that's
Yeah.
literally free. It's open to whomever wants to come, and we just want to engage
Yeah.
with you. We want your questions, we want your thoughts,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just this, like, time to get together and to communicate and to just be in a
100%.
space where we all just can serve
Connect.
each other, yeah, and connect.
Yeah.
So we love you so much. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. All right. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.